Today's sutta is called Dantabhūmi Sutta. Now, this word Danta is very interesting. Usually, it means teeth, Danta. From there, you get the word dental. But here, it has a different sense. It means tamed, someone who is tamed. And bhumi is a very familiar word. We have in Malay the same word, only without the H. It's bhumi, meaning ground. And that's what bhumi means. So Dantabhumi can mean ground of the tamed, someone who's already tamed, like the arhats, or it can mean the ground for taming. In other words, the training the Buddha gives us. Stages of training, if you like. So this is the sutta, the teaching about this taming grounds. This is from Majjhima Nikaya, M125. The theme is how the Buddha transforms others, how the Buddha teaches. This is a very, very sweet sutta, very beautiful sutta. It's quite long, so I'll be summarizing it for you. Many of the sections are familiar to you, but the story is very interesting, very inspiring. The sutta opens with this person coming to see the Buddha, see a novice monk. And let's look at the sutta, the translation. Page 33 in my book. It's a story about how difficult it can be sometimes to teach Dhamma. And people have their own views. And nowadays, there is so much people can know, there's so much to know. You can easily gather information from robots online and so on. So in a sense, it's more difficult to study Buddhism today. And yet, it is even more vital that we know the Dhamma before we are lost in words and knowledge. The idea is to free ourselves so that we are at peace and to know how to be with this new changing world. So Dantabhumi, the discourse on the taming grounds, M125. Thus have I heard at one time the Blessed One was residing in the squirrel's feeding ground in the bamboo grove outside Rajagaha. It's really wonderful, for us to imagine where the Buddha is at the start of the sutta. So here we are outside this big city of Rajagaha. And then there is this bamboo grove given by King Bimbisara. It's a very big place. And part of this bamboo grove, there are lots of squirrels. People go there and feed food to the squirrels. I suppose Indian squirrels tend to be a bit more friendly. Local squirrels are not, they're a little bit more timid. But lately when I went to our garden here, this Jurong garden, I find the squirrels a little bit more friendly. They're more daring to come nearer people. I mean, it's not that they come and sit in front of you, but they kind of, you see them more often. It's really nice to see all these animals in the trees, and lots of them in the garden. And you see the squirrels even here around in our housing estate here, hidden in the trees. There are quite a lot of them. So it looks like they have enough food and you're quite happy. So here you are, you have this squirrels feeding ground, the monks are staying, the Buddha is staying there with the monks. But then the story, the scenario shifts. There is this forest, there is this novice monk dwelling in the forest cell. Now at that time, the novice monk, Achiravata, was dwelling in the forest cell. Now this word novice monk is not samanera. Samanera is the ordinary term. It refers to someone who is below 20 who is a novice, who is still not yet ready or able to become a monk. Now here the word is samanudesa, samana udesa. I think this samanudesa refers to an adult person who is 20 years and above, who is still a novice, in other words, who is not yet a monk. So because he's meditating on his own, one of the clues is that he's meditating on his own in a forest cell all by himself. So a novice is not likely to do that. A novice will be under training and helping the monks and so on. So here we have this novice monk. So I've used the word novice monk to translate samanudesa, where samanera I will just use novice. All right, so this novice monk is there. Then Prince Jayasena, while walking about on a stroll, approached the novice monk Achiravata and exchanged greetings with him. When this courteous and friendly exchange was concluded, Prince Jayasena sat down at one side. All right, so see this very urbane situation. This prince is walking about on a stroll. Once we see this phrase, usually it means like going for an exercise, just walking about to stretch himself. Okay, the Buddha also does this, the monks also do this. So here, when we talk about this prince, he's like a leader. See, because those days the kingdoms are not very big, it's very small, so people interact a lot. Even today, you see neighbors who are very friendly, and they talk to you, they want to know everything about you. So this Prince Jayasena, he's one of the sons of King Bibisara, by the way. So he sees this novice monk is very curious, not really interested in the Dharma. He is a young prince, very worldly. So he's just curious. There's always the Indians always have this sense of religiosity, this interest. So he sees this monk and this novice monk, so he talks to him. And there's always this politeness, this greeting. So 2.3, having sat on at one side, Prince Jayasena said this to the novice monk Achiravata. This I have heard, Master Agivesana, that here a monk who dwells diligent, ardent, and resolute would achieve oneness of mind. So he has said something about Buddhism, but it's not very clear about it. Now, it's very interesting how he addresses this novice monk, Achiravata, because he addressed him as Agivesana, Agni Vesayana in Sanskrit. Okay? So this Agivesana is his family name, is his Gotra name, his clan name. This, in a sense, is also a polite way of addressing. It's like we meet someone, we will say Mr. Tan, Mr. Lim, or Madam Tay, and so on. So he used the family name. He is not that close to the monk to call him by name, or moreover, he respects the monk, so he wouldn't call the monk by name. Right. So he asked this monk, is it true, that if you really are hardworking in Dharma practice, you get oneness of mind. So this is the opening remark, and then let's see what does the novice say. Okay, put that down. So the novice mind agrees. It says, "That is so, my prince. That is so, my prince. Here a monk who dwells diligent, exertive, and resolute would achieve oneness of mind, achieve samadhi, focus." And then this prince got even more curious. It would be good, Master Agivesana, if you were to teach me the Dharma as you have heard it, as you have mastered it. Right, so this novice is very humble. He still has not learned much yet. He's not attained any level properly. So he says, the novice says, I'm unable, my prince, to teach you the Dharma as I've heard it, as I've mastered it. If I, my prince, were to teach you the Dharma as I've mastered it, as I've heard it, as I've mastered it, you would not be able to understand its meaning. You would tire me, you would vex me. Right, so here apparently he does know something, but he is still not competent enough to teach what the prince wants to know. But the prince insists. This prince says, "Teach me, master, I give you some the Dharma as you have read it," and so on, so that I may understand it. Okay, he says, "Don't worry, I will understand it." You see, the prince is very certain, overconfident, if you like. So the second time, he said it, right, and then the third time, the novice says, "Okay, I'll teach you something." So let's go further down, see what happens. So at 4.3, look at 4.3. So it's the prince says, "Teach me, I give you the Dharma," okay? And if I, Master Agiyasana, understand the meaning of what is spoken by Master Agiyasana, that would be good. If I do not understand the meaning of what has been spoken by Master Agiyasana, then we will leave it at that, and I will question you no further. So this is what the this is what the novice monk actually told to the prince. It says, "Okay, if you insist, then I'll teach you something. But if you don't understand, just leave it like that. Don't ask me any further, okay? Because it doesn't want to get into an argument, all right?" So there is this uneasy agreement, if you like. All right, so we're going to come to a very interesting climax in this story. The opening, very dramatic opening. 5. The novice monk Acharavata then taught the Dhamma as he has heard it, as he has mastered it, to Prince Jayasena. When this was said, Prince Jayasena said this to the novice monk Acharavata. Okay, so this comes the anticlimax, if you like, further down. Let's go further down. So this prince says, "That is impossible, Master Agiyasana. There's no way it can be where a monk who dwells diligent, ardent, and resolute would achieve oneness of mind." Then Prince Jayasena, having declared that it is impossible, that there's no way it can be, rose from his seat and departed. So here you can see it's not a very happy situation. This prince is not convinced. Maybe the novice still gives some teaching which is quite difficult, and this prince couldn't understand it. Okay, and also the novice is not certain of anyway, so he was kind of being forced to teach. So he just said something. He knew it was not going to make the prince happy anyway. But then, since the prince insists, he just said something. So the prince goes away, and this poor novice is not very happy. And of course, situations like this, he goes back to the Buddha. Right? So now comes the real story. See what the Buddha is going to teach him something new. All right. 6.2. Then, not long after Prince Jayasena had left, the novice monk Charavata approached the Blessed One, saluted him, and sat down at one side. So seated thus at one side, he recounted to the Blessed One the whole conversation that he had with Prince Jayasena. Now, this 6.3 is very interesting because usually in this Majjhima and the Digha Nikaya also, the sutta will repeat the whole conversation. But apparently, this conversation is very short. The conversation that Jayasena had with Charavata. So this one a rare occasion when the sutta compiler just simply summarizes it and says the whole conversation. It says underline. I've underlined the word. He recounted the whole conversation that he had with Prince Jayasena without mentioning it, without elaborating it. Right? This is very rare in the sutta. Usually the sutta will repeat everything in the oral tradition. But here, as I said, it is too short, so the sutta reciter thought that people will remember the story anyway. So now comes the teaching. When this was said, the Blessed One said this to the novice Charavata. The teaching begins. "How is it ever possible here, Agiyasana?" Notice he also calls this novice Agiyasana. "With that which should be known through renunciation, should be seen through renunciation, should be attained through renunciation, should be realized through renunciation. That this would ever be known, seen, attained, realized by Prince Jayasena, who lives enjoying sensual pleasures, being consumed with sensual pleasures, burning with the fever of sensual pleasures, being caught up with seeking sensual pleasures. This is impossible, right? So, in other words, this novice monk had, spoken to the prince about renunciation, and this young prince is living a happy life, sensual life. So he doesn't agree with this. So the Buddha said, how can he ever understand it? Renunciation, because to know, you have to know first, and then to see, and then attain something, and then realize, and attain at least stream winning, to fully understand what renunciation really means. So this is the Buddha is basically consoling the this monk, saying that he is wrong, at the same time it's all right, you should learn from this, right? Now the Buddha goes on to give a parable. So usually when something is difficult or the listener is new, the Buddha would use a parable also for our benefit. And this parable is really beautiful. It is this parable that gives the sutta the title. In a sense, this sutta is about how to capture wild elephants and tame them. So it is a very interesting story about this, the Buddha coming from this Kshatriya clan, this warrior clan. He's very good with animals, training of horses. In some suttas, you got training of horses. Here is training of an elephant. Right? So you're going to see these stages. The Dantabhumi here, stages of training, already first starts off by the Buddha talking about how to tame a wild elephant. All right, let's push this up a bit, this parable of the two tameable elephants. 8. Suppose there were, now let me just make a note here. Okay? Sometimes we miss out what's called the vocative. There could be the word suppose which used, or suppose Chiravata. Just check. Yeah? And suppose there were two tameable elephants, or tameable horses, or tameable oxen that were well tamed and well disciplined. And two tameable elephants, or tameable horses, or tameable oxen that were untamed, undisciplined. So you have 3 pairs of animals. Elephants, tame, untamed. That means wild elephants. You have 2 horses, 2 pairs of horses rather. One is tame, the other is still not tame. Not tame, that means they're kind of still young and very frisky, still kind of a bit, they do not listen to instructions, right? And of course you have oxen also. Even cattle sometimes can be quite stubborn, so they need to be trained. But here the key animals are the elephants. All right, so what do you think, Agevasana? Would the 2 tameable elephants, or tameable horses, or tameable oxen that were well tamed and well disciplined, being tamed, assume the nature of the tame? Would they attain to the level of the tame? I mean, if they have been tamed, would they be, easily, you get them to do things easily? And of course, yes, Bante, says the novice. So that's, the Buddha wants to make sure everything is really clear, especially for us today. Okay, next page. Right, but would the 2 tameable elephants, or tameable horses, or tameable oxen that were untamed and undisciplined assume the nature of the tame? In other words, if you get these 3 pairs of animals who are not tame, would they behave like, would they be disciplined? Would they follow instructions? Of course, no, Bante says, the novice monk. Even so, the Buddha says, when it comes to renunciation, if someone has not renounced the world and really, gone through the training, it's not just a matter of renouncing, you must also go through the training. And if someone has renounced the world and gone through the training, they would have known, seen, attained, and realized that there's some levels, right? But not this prince. This prince has not gone through this renunciation, so he would not be able to understand what renunciation is. He has not seen the effects of renunciation. So this is the first parable. Then the Buddha comes to the second parable, and this is the important parable actually, which the novice should be using, which he did not use. And this helps the novice to understand the difficulty also. So here the Buddha, there is the parable of the hill view. There is a place in Singapore called Hillview. So when you see this name, you remember Dantabhūmi Sutta. No? So here, the Buddha begins the parable. He says, suppose I give you a scenario. There were a great hill. And this probably is Babata, I think. So when you say this hill, you can also translate as cliff, right? So it's up to you. But I think when you teach this, you should explain. You should explain the Pali word if you can, right? So why I say it's important to know the Pali word here is because in this parable, the two friends, one of them will climb up this hill and the other one can see him. So if the hill is a bit big, you won't be able to see it. But if it's a cliff, let's say not too high a cliff, then A is at the top, B is on the ground, and you can see him. All right, here's the parable. Suppose I give you a scenario, there were a great hill or a great cliff, not far from a village or a market town. And the two friends from that village or market town were to depart from it and approach the hill hand in hand. It is very sweet. So here we see in Asia, in India, Myanmar, Thailand, Southeast Asia as a whole, people hold hands. I mean, everyone, not just male and female, because it is their way of being friendly to each other in a civil way, right? So they go up this hill. Sometimes in the suttas you find these little details which are missed out. So it's very interesting to note them, study them, note them. So you notice I make notes here so that we see how rich the suttas are in telling us about the social realities and social joys of ancient Indian society, and in a sense that the Buddhist community. So these two friends, they're living in a village, and probably it's not a very high mountain. It cannot be too big a mountain. It's just a hill, so you can climb it. You easily climb it, and the one at the bottom can see the person at the top of the hill, or the top of the cliff, if you like. So on reaching it, one friend remains at the foot of the hill while the other climbs to the top of the hill. Then the friend at the foot of the hill says to the friend at the top of the hill thus, well, my friend, or my dear, what do you see as you stand on the top of the cliff top? Then he replies, standing on the hilltop, my friend, I see delightful parks, delightful forests, delightful terrains or grounds, and delightful lotus lakes. All kinds of views, no? And then the person on the ground, the friend on the ground says, it is impossible, my friend. There's no way that you standing on a hilltop can see all these things, He says, so he says, he can't see it. So he say, I don't believe you. How can you see all these things? So I thought his friend was just pulling his leg. Then the other friend on the top, let's call him friend A, the one on the top, B is on the ground. So A says, okay, now I'm going to bring you up here, okay? So after giving him a moment so he brings him up to the hill, and this part is very interesting. So they walk up the hill. After giving him a moment to catch his breath, he speaks thus to him. So he does not at once talk. So you can see this parable is really, really sensible, really sweet. you see this, they're walking up the hill, it's tiring. So the friend gives it time to the other friend so he can catch his breath. Probably he doesn't like climbing hills. So once they both reach the top and they're ready, then A tells B, let's look. What does A tell B? So his friend replies thus. So this is what B on the ground who's up on the hilltop with his friend A. Standing on this hilltop, my friend, I too see delightful parks, delightful forests, delightful terrains, delightful lotus lakes. Then he, that is the other friend, says thus, only just now, my friend, we know you to have said thus. That is impossible, right? So only a while ago you say, where got such thing? Huh? But now you see, right? So now you know, because you're standing on top of the hill, you can see. You can see all these wonderful places. Now let's see further down. Let's see what happens further down. Okay. So that's because, says the other friend, my eye was obstructed by this high hill, so that I'm unable to see what should be seen. Right. So the friend B says I couldn't see what he saw, which is on the other side, because the hill was blocking, the cliff was blocking his view. Right. So there you are. So that's a parable, and then Buddha explains 10. So too, Agevesana, was Prince Jayasena obstructed, hindered, covered, shrouded by an even greater mess than this, that of ignorance, right? So the heel is ignorance. No? So even so, it is that which should be known through renunciation, seen, attained, realized, and that this prince has not known, seen, or attained or realized renunciation because he's enjoying all these worldly pleasures and he's not able to see this. So 11, so now Agevesana, if these two parables had occurred to you for the sake of Prince Jayasena, it would not be surprising. It would be natural, in other words, that this prince would have had faith, and filled with faith, he would have faith in you, right? So in other words, here up to this point, it's very interesting. The Buddha is teaching us how to teach Dharma using parables. Okay, then we come to the keynote teaching of this sutta, the parable of elephant training. And we'll take a short break. Okay, now the novice monk tells the Buddha it was difficult for him to imagine the parable, right? So the Buddha teaches him the elephant parable, in other words, to give him an idea how to use parables. 11.2, the novice monk says, but how, Bhante, could these two parables that I've not heard before have occurred to me naturally, spontaneously, for the sake of Prince Jayasena, as they did for the Blessed One? Agevesana, says the Buddha, suppose a head-anointed Kshatriya Raja, noble king, okay, were to address his elephant forester thus. So the king tells his forester, elephant trainer, if you like, my good elephant forester, mount the royal elephant, enter the elephant forest, and upon seeing the forest elephant, bind him by the neck to the royal elephant. Now, this tells us a lot about those days, about kings and elephants. Elephants are like artillery, so they're very important to the king's defense. So this elephant forest is a special place. I don't think anyone can just go in and hunt elephants. It's only for the king. So, and these are breeding places for the elephants, so that the king will capture elephants and then train them. So this is how it is done. 12.2. Agevesana, then the elephant forester replies to the head anointed Kshatriya Raja, yes, Your Majesty. Then he mounts the royal elephant, enters the elephant forest, and upon seeing the forest elephant as the wild elephant, he binds him by the neck to the royal elephant. This royal elephant leads him out into the open. This is the first stage, right? you can see the round number 1 here. So this is the actual stages of Dantabhumi, the stages of training of the elephant. Right. So this forester is very clever. Somehow he manages to go to this wild elephant. So he's very calm. He goes behind the elephant. The elephant doesn't see him and panic. And then manage to put a leash around the neck of the elephant, and then slowly leads him to the, ties the rope to the royal elephant. So there are 2 elephants. So this kind of helps the wild elephant to be calm, and he says, okay, there's this other elephant, so the wild elephant feels a bit more safe, if you like. So, and this wild elephant follows the royal elephant into the open. So this is the first thing. They go from the hidden part of the forest into the open, right? So the wild elephant has to do this first, find some courage to come out the open first, so that it's not afraid of people and won't be fierce also. So that's very interesting, just this simple detail. No? And of course, all this is going to be reflected in the Buddhist training. Yes, let's see what happens next. Further down. Right. And Agivasana, to that extent, the forest elephant would have come out into the open. For Agivasana, here the forest elephant clings to that elephant forest, right? So the wild elephants want to be in the forest, so it takes some doing to bring them out of the forest. That elephant forester then tells the head anointed Kshatriya Raja, Your Majesty, the forest elephant has come out into the open. Then Agivasana, the head anointed Kshatriya Raja, addresses the elephant tamer. Come, my good elephant tamer, tame the forest elephant, so as to subdue his habits of the forest, so as to subdue his memories and thoughts of the forest, so as to subdue his distress, weariness, and fever of the forest, right? This is very interesting because this is the way that the monks who are training in their renunciation are taught. The forest here is the home, okay? So they have left home and they are now living in renunciation in the monastery. So they are taught to forget the home, their forest, to let go of memories and don't feel attached and distressed thinking about the home. So the next stage, that is number 2. And number 3, the Buddha continues, here the king orders the forester, get him, here is the elephant, him, to delight being near a village, so that he feels natural of being amongst humans. Yes, Your Majesty. Right? Agivasana replies, right? Now here, this is very interesting. It's a bit of irony, almost an irony here. Here, humans here represents the other monks, right? And the village here represents the monastery. Quite the opposite, isn't it? So this elephant is not afraid of the village. In fact, he learns to like the village and he feels good, feels okay among humans. So in other words, the pronunciations get used to the monk life. Okay, now stage 4. Then Agivasana, who's he here? The elephant trainer, the forester. He sinks a great post into the ground. So this is a solid kind of tree trunk, so the elephant cannot pull it up. That binds the forest elephant by the neck to it, right? So as to be sure that this elephant is safe, he's not afraid, so he will subdue his forest habits, he will let go of thoughts of the forest and becomes more relaxed, staying in the new environment, so that he feels natural being amongst human. Notice this refrain is repeated, so that he feels natural being amongst human. Now, let's go further up then, 12.6. The elephant trainer, the elephant tamer, Agivasana, then addresses it with words that are gentle, pleasant to the ear, loving, touching the heart, urbane or refined, delighting to the multitude. pleasing to the multitude. Very gentle words. So in other words, now the elephant tamer communicates, make friends with this wild elephant, making the elephant familiar with him by speaking gently. So here, speaking Dharma, so we speak that way. Okay, that's stage 4. Stage 5, the elephant tamer Agivesana further offers him grass, fodder, and water. When the forest elephant accepts the grass, fodder, and water, it occurs to the elephant tamer, now this royal forest elephant will live. Okay, so here it's a good sign. Say, okay, that's wonderful. This elephant now listens to me, listens to humans, and this elephant will be able to live, basically able to serve the king, right? So now he's called a royal forest elephant. So it's like his rank is raised. No more wild elephant, is a royal forest elephant. Right? Okay, so notice, even though we read this parable, imagine it's the monk training. So this monk will live. In other words, the monk will progress on the path. Right? Okay, let's go further down and see what happens. Next stage of training, number 6 now, stage 6, bracket 6. The elephant tamer then makes him work further. See, work further. So even in monastic training, there's always something further to do in mental training. And saying, "Pick it up, sir. Put it down, sir." Okay. Now notice is the word "sir" here, addressing animals as "sir" to kind of like communicate with the elephant. Now I notice even in Thai language they use the word "nai." "Nai" means master. So like in English you say master, or Malay you say tuan. So these words are quite common. So now the elephant tamer teaches the elephant, the new royal elephant, to understand human commands. Right? Take it up, take something up, put something down. All right, and then after that it goes on to teach him some more. So this is like learning the Vinaya, okay, like learning Vinaya. So here the tamer says, "Go forward, sir. Go backward, sir." Right. So the word "sir" here shows us communication the tamer has with the elephant. And then this elephant follows. Then he's very happy. Then the tamer says, "Okay, now he gives new instructions. Stand up, sir. Sit down, sir." All right. So here you find this training goes deeper, and this elephant follows. So these are the basic ideas for the elephant, how the elephant should move. And now comes the most important part in the training, because it's going to be a royal elephant, it's going to war, going to battle, it's going to protect the king and bring victory to the king. So he has to learn to be calm, to be very calm, right? So here you can see, let me just jump here, but you can see this word, the imperturbable, underlined for you. That's the key word. We'll find out what's the meaning in just a moment, right? This is stage 7. Very interesting, isn't it? 7 stages, no? The elephant tamer makes him work further to do a task called the imperturbable. Now, what's interesting here, the Buddha is amazing in his parable. This imperturbable is also a Dhamma term for attaining this undisturbed state of mind. Imperturbable means undisturbed, unmoved, calm, confident, cannot be disturbed. How is this done? Because now this part is really amazing. Yeah? He binds a great shield to his trunk. Notice this he is the elephant tamer, this his here is the elephant, right? A man holding an elephant pike sits on his neck. Right, so now someone else is going to sit on the elephant's back and is ready for it, and he holds an elephant pike. So this is no ordinary stick; it's a pike there, because people go to this ancient Indians go to war, they have a pike like a spear. And men, each holding an elephant pike in his hand, stand surrounding him. Again, the elephant. Yes? And the elephant tamer himself, holding a long pike pole, stand in front of him. Notice the elephant tamer is in front of the elephant, right? So he wants the elephant to feel safe, to see someone familiar. Now, while he's performing the task called the imperturbable. Okay, let's see further down. He moves not his forelegs, nor his hind legs. He moves not the front of his body, nor his back. He moves not his head, nor his ears. He moves not his tusks, nor his tail. He moves not his trunk. Now, this is the most important thing. He does not let his trunk out. In fact, another sutta, I think, probably Pahārāda Sutta, I think. This elephant will put the trunk tip in the mouth, protect it. So then the trainer will know, okay, this elephant is good, it's well trained. This is how the elephant is trained to withstand battle. So the tamer is in front of the elephant. And this is what happens. 12.13. The royal elephant endures being hit by spears, by swords, by arrows, and by enemies from the other side, and endures the sounds and din of the beri. The beri is a conical drum, Indian drum, cymbals, conch shells, and the dindima, which is a small drum. So these are things the enemy soldier will use to frighten the horses and the elephants by making lots of incoherent noise. No? So this elephant is not going to be troubled. Okay, compare this to a meditator. Right? A good meditator will not be troubled by any sounds. So here you are. It's a very beautiful comparison. Now the last stage is the 8th stage. Being free from all wiles and faults, purified of any deficiency, he is worthy of the king, in the king's service, and is reckoned as a limb of the king. He's part of the king's victory, an emblem of the king. Right? So finally, this elephant is a royal elephant. So this means this person's attained the stage of the first stage of the path, at least. Right? So attain string winning, or maybe even higher. So there you are. This is the parable. So what we need to learn actually is already finished here, because now the Buddha is going to show us something familiar, the fruits of reclusion, how these parables relate to monastic training. So I'm going to summarize everything here because all these are familiar to you. So this part here, the Dharma and renunciation pericope. Pericope means this passage occurs again and again in the suttas. So they're very ancient, very famous. So here the Buddha says there is the Tathagata, the Buddha has arisen in the world. People have faith. So they leave home, they renounce the world, and then they join the Sangha, they practice the Vinaya, and go for the monastic training. Okay, further down, please. Yeah, and then he goes and he gives up everything he has, his wealth, big and small, gives up his relatives, he becomes a monk, and is going to go for training. The first training is in moral virtue. Okay, it trains in the precepts. Further down, please. Further down, please. So it trains the precepts first. Then the Patimokkha follows the rules of the monastic code, and then he learns moral restraint. And next section, further down, we're going to go a bit fast now. No? So he practice sense restraint, in other words, see less, hear less, and so on. He will be mindful of what he sees, hears, smells, tastes, touch, and even thinks. All right. So this is called guarding the senses. All right. So this is part of moral training. Further down some more, please. Okay. Further some more. Yeah. And next thing is he practices moderation in food. Does not eat too much, or it's just nice to keep him healthy so he can practice. And he practices wakefulness here, in other words, keeping alert so you can keep up with his practice. By not eating too much or too little, he's able to keep awake. And here, the training of the early monks is quite amazing. It's not easy, but they live in a quiet place, where the air is clean, the place is beautiful. What does it mean to devote to wakefulness? During the day, while walking to and fro and sitting down, purify the mind of obstructions, but clears the mind of all nasty thoughts. During the first watch of the night, First watch is 6 to 10. While walking to and fro and sitting down, purify the mind of obstruction, clear the mind. Okay. And middle watch is 10 to 2. After mentally noting time for rising, he will sleep, he will rest. Okay, 10 to 2. So it's quite a short while. Because these are meditators rest. Mindfully and clearly comprehending, lie down, lying like on our right side, one foot placed over the other. And then the last watch, this is 2 to 6. While walking to and fro and sitting down, purify the mind of obstructions. Again, here means meditate, right? So notice a lot of walking meditation. This is how the monks exercise, right? And then the next training, number 8, mindfulness and clear knowing. So the monk practices being mindful as he walks, as he sits, he carries the rope, when he eats, when even in the toilet, and walking, whether he's awake and whether he's talking or remaining silent, he is mindful, in other words. Notice here also, even asleep, and following asleep is also mindful. Yeah, but it's not easy. This is meditation training. And then stage 9 is solitary lodging. Put it down, please. All right, so now after all this learning the basic monastic training or immoral training, he learns to go for solitary retreat, right? So the Tathagata, the Buddha, leads him further by teaching him how to do his own meditation under a tree in the forest, practicing his own solitary meditation. Further down, so he does his practice, and then he overcomes the 5 mental hindrances: covetousness, meaning sensual desire, evil and anger, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry, and then doubt. Overcomes doubt. Further down, please. Down, yeah. So notice doubt. So the 5 hindrances are overcome. Once the 5 hindrances are overcome, then there is mental focus. Further down, please. What are the 4 mindfulness of the number 1 of the body, number 2 of feelings, number 3 the mind, and number 4 dharmas. These are the 4 satipatthanas. So he goes into his practice. He learns to let go of the world, just like the elephant is tied to the great post, right? So it's like the mind is tied to focus, to samadhi, so the mind will not wander away. So this monk attains jhana. Okay, so this is the next part of the training. The monks attain. Really, this is the real renunciation, when the monk lets go of the world. The world here are the senses. Okay, further down. Okay, so the monk lets go of connections to the world, thoughts of the world, and even all thoughts. Is free from thoughts. His mind is in deep focus, right? So he does not think about the body or think about feelings or think about the mind. He just frees himself. He knows the Dharma as it is. Okay. Then what happens after that? Let's go further down. After letting go of all thoughts, then he attains. That was the first jhana. First jhana, the mind is free of thoughts, and the mind is very happy. Notice here, very interesting, the sutta doesn't mention first jhana, but it's implied there. And then second, third, fourth jhana, stage by stage, the monk lets go of the various aspects of the what's called the jhana factors. So it attains up to fourth jhana even. Okay, and using jhana, any of these stages, he comes out of it and his mind is clear. Then he looks at impermanence and the reality of the world and attains the 3 knowledges. Okay, so here is the kind of high-speed kind of view of the 3 training. So he gains the 3 knowledges. The first, he's able to recollect his many past lives. Further down. Right, so it's knowledge of recollection of past lives. This is his own. And then knowledge number 2, he recollects the past lives of other beings. In other words, he begins to see how beings, he knows how beings are reborn according to the karma. So this second knowledge of the Arahat here is that of karma, how beings fare according to the karma. And then the third and most important knowledge further down is the knowledge of the destruction of the mental influxes. At this stage, he destroys sensual desire, he destroys desire for existence or any kind of wanting this, wanting that in terms of stages of meditation, and it overcomes ignorance. In other words, it understands the Four Noble Truths completely, and that is the knowledge of arahathood, or otherwise called knowledge of the destruction of mental influxes. Influxes are those distractions that flow through our six senses and pulls us down in the world. So now is an arahat. Further down, please. Further down, we're coming to the end of the sutta. So here, all this he declares himself as an arahat. Says there's nothing further beyond this. Is obtain arahathood, nothing more to do. So here, that monk endures cold and heat, hunger and thirst, gadflies, touch the mosquitoes. He's very patient with words and speech, and his mind is cleansed, is pure. No more hatred, last hatred and delusion. He's one worthy of gifts. Right? Okay, further down, coming to the close already. So here, the Buddha says, again, the royal elephant, if this royal elephant were to die in old age, untamed, undisciplined, and people would just say, oh, this elephant died untamed. Or the elephant can die middle age or die young, and they'll not die untamed. So they'll remain untamed. That'll be rather sad. So similarly, an elder monk, without destroying the influxes, without becoming an arahat or reaching the path, may die untamed. That's rather sad. So a middle-aged monk too may die untamed if he doesn't train himself. And a novice monk too may similarly die untamed. So here the Buddha especially mentioned novice monk. So those who die tame, they can die in old age, or they die tame, or they die middle age, they die tame, or they die even young. They could pass away, but they are liberated as arahats, right? So also, you have this kind of elephant which can, if they're tame, they can die young or old or middle age, right? So now let's go further down to the closing of the sutta. So the Buddha tells this novice monks as well, there you are. So make sure you are tamed. And this is the parable of the taming of the parable of the taming. Right? So you can begin by thinking of parable of trimming elephants, and that's how Buddhist renunciants are trained also. All right, the sutta ends here. So we got a few minutes left. That's nice. Huh? Any questions?
Yeah, brother. Yeah, thank you for the teaching. So now we have our Q&A. Sister Aisin, please take over the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Ratna and Brother Piya for the teaching. Yes, brother and sister, if you have any question, you can unmute yourself and ask your question, or you can type in the group chat.
Yeah, there's a question. There's a question in the chat box.
Question in the chat box.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, there's a message from Kelvin. Yeah.
Yeah,
personal message. He says, is there a typo error in footnote 105? It's writes the Qing parallel. Is it supposed to be Chinese parallel?
105.
It's 108. 108.
Yeah. That's a short form. That's an abbreviation, Kevin.
Oh, yes. Qin means Chinese, right? We try to save space so that we can put more compact notes. So there are lots of short forms. Now, so if you find that you don't understand the short forms, we have a little, a thick book actually. We can send it to you free. all the short forms are given there and tells you what it means. Here we follow the international scholarly standard because these notes are used in the universities also, and it helps the lecturers with their notes, especially among the monks in Sri Lanka and Myanmar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Piya, I'm just wondering, the parables given in the
Yeah.
sutta,
Mm.
is it in line with this teaching method of teaching called anupubikata?
Anupubikata means the progressive training, step by step. Yeah, in a way, we can use parables to help, but it's only part of it. It's not the whole thing. The anupubikata is the whole training itself, whereas the parable is just one aspect.
It is the beginning aspect. Basically, it's to lead listener towards a
It can
deeper
be used-
understanding, isn't
It
it?
can be used anytime, actually, depending on the teacher's skill, when necessary. Yeah, it can be used when necessary. So parable means you use something which is known to express something unknown, which is the Dhamma in this case. So that is the idea of parable. Okay, parable means comparable. So you find the taming of the elephant, step by step. Yeah, you got to look through all the stages, and then you can call it anupubikata. Yeah? But if it's one parable, it's just one stage. But in the case you're right, you can say you can use parables throughout the training, which is possible also. Okay, any other question?
Because if we refer back to the sutta,
Mhm.
the Buddha already mentioned to the Venerable that the prince is surrounded by sensual pleasure.
Yeah.
So his mind, if anybody were to go straight into the Dhamma, he won't be able to grasp it.
Yes.
So in from my understanding is
Yes.
the parables will be the starting point for anupubikata.
Yes, sure. Yeah, that's good thinking. Yeah, the idea is to tell this prince something familiar. Then the prince, oh, I get it. And then the prince is more ready to listen. Yeah? Because the prince can connect. But after all, these princes, they also use elephants. So the important thing is to connect. So of course, in modern times, elephants might not be so interesting for most people who are busy with their city life. So you got to think of some new ways of connecting the Dhamma to those people. So it's not going to be easy. Yeah. So in a way, it's as if to be a good Dhamma teacher, you must be in both worlds. You know something of this, the world that you're left behind, and you use it to reach out to those who are left behind. Yeah, something like that. So in a sense, I'm doing the easy way. I'm just kind of explaining the suttas so that the new teachers out there, they are familiar with the old teachings, and then with their new skills, they combine this, and then they reach out to the living world today, especially the urbanized modern world. Right? So teaching Dhamma can be quite difficult today. Yet at the same time, there are people who are really keen to know the suttas as taught by the Buddha. So I have a lot of people I know in the West who have that interest. So we do have people who are keen in early Buddhism. Okay, we are past time a bit, but if you have urgent question, you can still ask one more question if you like, anyone. So finish, no more questions. We can end here. All right, let us just calm our minds at this crucial point to recollect this wonderful sutta and how we have spent this 1.5 hours in peace and something that creates wonderful mental karma. In this wonderful moment, let us first of all send out our loving kindness to ourselves that we'll be well and happy so that we can practice the Dhamma with a good mind and a good body. Send out your kind thoughts to your loved ones, to those who are important to you, even to people who may not understand you. send them joy and peace so that they are happy to see you. And don't forget your teachers, to send thoughts of loving kindness to them too, and to everyone else. And finally, we close with gratitude and respect to the three jewels. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi. Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami. Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namam. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.